getting pretty
Good.
glossy.
All right, we are back in public session. Paul, will you lead us in the pledge?
I sure will, if I can remember it. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
I'll make a motion to seal the non-public minutes for the period of 1 year.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Anita. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 That's 5-0. Do I have a motion on the non-public and public minutes?
September 15th.
Yeah.
I'll make a motion to approve the non-public and public meeting minutes of September 15th, 2022.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Anita. Any discussion or questions, comments on the minutes? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Abstentions? It's 5-0. Consent agenda.
Make a motion to accept the consent agenda for October 6th, 2022. Accounts payable, payment manifest dated 10/6/22. Removal of credits, map lot number 112-077, map lot number 218-007, map lot number 112-044. Approval of administrative abatements from the tax collector's office for map lot number 220-015-106 in the amount of $4.04. Map lot number 220-015-061 in the amount of $2.02. Map lot number 220-15-115 in the amount of $3.03. Map lot 220-015-132 in the amount of $3.03. Map lot number 221-017 in the amount of 13 cents. Map lot number 116-025 in the amount of $1.06. Map lot 222-017 in the amount of 40 cents. Map lot 203-210 in the amount of 69 cents. Map lot number 203-238 in the amount of 1 cent. Map lot 219-009 in the amount of 3 cents. Map lot number 114-005 in the amount of 39 cents. Map lot number 108-036-002 in the amount of 95 cents. Map lot number 104-112 in the amount of $1.25. Approval of current use review project, acceptance of service with Comfort Needard Perkins LLC in the amount of $7,000.
Thank you.
It was a sizable amount.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Dawn. Any questions or comments on items on the consent agenda? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Abstentions? Thank you very much. We have the Bristol Solar, sorry, hold on. Solar exemption warrant article, Mr. Bemis. Give us a minute. Come on up and give us a minute.
I printed out a hard copy of at least the warrant article itself, so that you have it. I didn't print the whole thing.
Thank you.
I didn't have any or ink, but you want me to do it, or you want to do it?
I can do it, you can speak if you.
Okay. So this is a warrant article language right here, and it says that tax exemption for properties assessed value for solar energy systems intended for immediate site. Property tax exemption shall be in the amount of 100% of the assessed value of qualifying solar system equipment. So this is what we're asking for is support of the Bristol Select Board for this proposed warrant article. At the moment in our town, when you put up a solar array, PV array on your home, you are assessed and you're taxed on it incrementally. We don't think that that's necessarily incenting. So if you go to the next slide, you'll see some of the reasons. The one back. So the big issue here is energy cost for us all, and the future is definitely electric. So the general trend for homes, both commercial and residential, is to move to electricity as a source for heating and cooling through the use of heat pumps. This is a trend that we're seeing everywhere, and it will continue. Heat pumps continue to get more efficient. When you couple them with solar, and hopefully a battery, but at least solar, you're using energy from your own solar array to drive and cool your home. It saves energy. It also reduces the consumption of fossil fuels and reduces contribution to any kind of global warming. So if you take a look at the numbers on it, the average cost to install, these are numbers that I got. I have references for them. I think I listed if you want in there. It saves average cost to install about $11,000. That probably is low. It's probably a little more than that. I just had a quote on our house and it's closer to 20. The ROI is about 7 years on those if they're not taxed. And that number has probably been getting shorter. As you all know, electricity rates just went up. So every kilowatt that you produce by an array on your own home and can consume at that time saves you a tremendous amount of money. So ROI about 7 years, and benefits, of course, reduce fossil fuel, reduce transmission loss. Remember that if you're generating locally and you're consuming locally, you only have to get the electrons from up there down to here, as opposed to transmission losses that we see come across the grid. And it's already in use. This is a big, important one, because if we take a look at solar in general, and we consider putting big solar arrays up and cutting down trees to do it, this is not necessarily beneficial to everyone because you're cutting down trees. But we have all these rooftops that are existing. They don't all orient perfectly, but they're there. They're already paid for, and therefore using residential solar as a way to offset costs is an important one. It also will require the utility to upgrade the local infrastructure to handle the solar arrays, and this is good for us too. So it encourages investment in our own community by forcing the local utility to upgrade their local infrastructure to be able to handle the solar. This will be really good for us going forward for all kinds of things that are coming down the road, like time varying rates and battery storage and these kinds of things. It also improves resiliency. If you combine it with a local battery, you can replace the fossil fuel burning generator that you have and use the battery and the solar array to help power your home, and also when you lose the grid, you can still continue to operate. And for Bristol itself, it's an opportunity for us to take a step forward, as we have been. We already have, as you know, the solar array down at the wastewater treatment facility. This positions our community as a forward thinker with respect to the adoption of solar. Okay. The top reasons for adopting, these are not mine. This is a survey that was done. They polled about 1,000 homeowners, benefit the environment, energy security, reduce the bills. This cuts across for everybody, people who are very independent, want to be on their own. We see a lot of this in New Hampshire. We want to, stand on our own 2 feet. Solar supports that position because it allows you to generate your own electricity. It's a renewable source, much like burning wood is, but contributes no carbon. Energy reliance, rebates, against it, too expensive. So it's a cost issue. I'm not sure how the incentives work. The 2 biggest ones are initial cost and how long am I going to be in my home. Those are the 2 biggest issues. How much is it going to cost up front, and how long will I be there? Is it long enough to overcome the return on investment necessary for me to make money? But with rising energy rates, that period is getting shorter. So more and more people are wanting to do it. What the exemption does is incent them to do it a little more than we are today. Go ahead. So There is this question about cost shifting that has pretty much been put to bed. You hear this a lot in the political discussion about this, that there's
The question about what, sorry?
cost shifting.
Okay, thank you.
The idea that some would argue is that if I put up a solar array and get net metering on it, which I do get net metering rates, that I'm passing that cost on to someone else. That's been dispelled now a number of different ways. This is a 2014 study, but there was also just a study that came out in the state of New Hampshire that said the same thing. That no, in fact, it does not do that. It does not burden other ratepayers. And a 2013 study that I looked up said net metering does not impose net cost to non-solar ratepayers. The state of Vermont's been quite proactive about it. Go ahead. Excuse me. So this is some work that Christina did. We have in our town 19 taxable properties with solar arrays at the moment. So we have already taxed in our town. The current policy is to tax property tax. We have an assessed rate of $281,000. Can you explain to me what the two bullets are, Christina, because I didn't understand.
So the 2021 rate is the total tax rate, so that's what we get. All local, state, school, they get taxed at the full rate, $20.21. We didn't have this year's rate yet. And then the town rate is the $8.30, so that's what they contribute to the town portion of the tax bill.
So we're not talking about a lot of revenue loss here, the tax loss, because one of the things we'll have to consider here is how much do we lose if we change the law or change the rule that we already have. Our exposure is $2,000. It's not really. There are a list of towns. The way that the state has done this is they've said the towns are able to set this law themselves. It's not a state mandate, but they've put the regulatory process in place to allow the town to make their own decision about this topic. I listed a set of towns here. There are about 50 towns in our state that have 100% exemption on this, as I'm advocating for. There's a map on the next one that shows this. I'm sorry it's sideways, but the ones in yellow, it doesn't matter because you can't read anything.
Yeah,
The ones in yellow are the ones that provide the exemptions,
the 100%.
100% exemptions.
The ones in peach pink color are a portion of the assessed value.
And there's a list after that. This is the next set of slides is again just background. If you want to look, I'll give you this electronically. These are what the state of New Hampshire did. These are 2017 numbers, I think. They took a look at what the tax implication was on a statewide basis for exempting solar. Statewide, it came up to about $2 million total. So I think that's it. It is a warrant article I'd like to have at town meeting in the spring. We would like to have your support for it. Questions, thoughts?
It might be Christina that answers this, not you. Since you have the town and the total rate, when you do the exemption, is that exempted just the town portion, or is it for all?
It's for all.
Okay, so it's just,
If you do it at 100, sorry. Here you go.
it takes it off the valuation for all the tax.
So if you do it as 100% exemption, it would take it off of total. That whole amount would come off.
Right.
The 281,000 would come off the values for the town.
Okay.
So,
Oh.
And speaking for Lincoln, I was there when they put that through, and that was a big thing that it came off the total. It makes sense, because you're looking at school and everything, so it's $20.21, they want the cost of the system
Right.
to come out of the assessed value for all the property.
And there's no mechanism in the state now to do a depreciative.
You mean the value
Yeah,
depreciative?
depreciate the value of the solar so that
No.
instead of giving just a straight out,
Not currently, I could check with the assessors, but I don't believe so. Some of the people who have theirs for a few years and their value hasn't changed.
yeah.
Tell me about the mechanics. What happens when someone puts a solar array on their house?
They
They get a permit, building
Yeah.
permit, I'm assuming, because, or not.
They do.
They do.
Well, or not, but they're supposed
Supposed
to.
If it's done correctly, what
Right.
happens? If it's done correctly, what happens?
If it's done correctly, they apply for a lean use permit. We do a $25 fee. Some other towns do it by kilowatt. It's just too much to figure that out, so we just do the minimum $25 fee. They have to provide, if it's on a building, they have to provide structural plans. If it's on the ground, they provide plans about the kilowatts, how it's gonna be connected to the house. Fire chief, there's new rules that the fire chief has to, review and make sure that they're doing what they need to do. They have setbacks on buildings, they have to be setbacks on the building, they have to be so many feet away from the roof line, the edge of the building. And that they have to provide structural, and they have to show that the building can structurally handle them, so.
And then how do you, and then because there's a land use permit,
It goes out,
then assessing picks it up
yeah,
and assigns a value based on the size.
based on the size, number of panels, kilowatts,
Okay.
it is based on that. I just get, these are the ones, property cards that we could, that number could be slightly different.
Yeah, sure.
It's just very hard to run out a single report right now, but yes, they go out, so if the permit was received this year, next year they would go out and pick up, so to speak, those changes.
Yeah.
And the assessment would hit the value of the building
And
next year.
that gets added to the card.
Yep.
And to the total taxable value.
Yes.
How do we figure out what the value of per kilowatt or per panel is? Is
I can't answer that.
Does our assessor,
The assessor does that, so.
he looks nationally, this is what it is, or
Yeah.
what? Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, that's all part of what I wanted to know.
That's what I was curious.
Like this is 500, but there's the condition, so this is 500 up per panel, but there's also some type of adjustment on the condition, and it may be where they're located. So the assessor would calculate all of that, so.
And I
But
think
it
you'll
does
find
appear,
as,
all of them are 500 per panel.
as these get more and more people doing it, the assessing will get much more accurate because it'll be
What
the
it
standard of the
is.
industry will be changing, it'll become just part of your property.
And I believe there's two different ways that you can do it. You can, if you do the 100% exemption, you can actually make them apply for it. Or you could make it automatic. So when they do it, their assessment would be added or offset, or, I'm not exactly sure, how that works, but we would certainly figure that out if that's what you chose to do, so.
So all you tell us.
Does the art, you said, I guess you're sort of suggesting to choose 1,000 or 100%. Are there other options then?
Yes.
We could do partial, yeah.
Yeah.
We're advocating 100%.
Okay.
Yep.
So you could basically, by RSA, you could almost choose any percentage?
You could, and some of them do, so the map.
Peach colored ones, sorry to interrupt.
Oh, that's what the partial one.
Yeah, the peach colored ones are the partial, they vary, some probably are 25%, 50%,
Okay.
some may even be 75%, I don't know what that breakdown is.
And the map is from 2017, and I tried to get a more
Yeah.
current one,
Yeah.
and I can't get one, so.
Okay.
So, we are behind as a state in terms of solar adoption. I think you all are aware of that. If you look at the states around us, we lag tremendously in our adoption and incenting of solar. I would like at our town level to incent it and try to get more solar in. It's just the right thing to do when you start talking about energy costs. It's also non-uniform. For example, we don't assess on other things. For example, if I were to put a new furnace in my home, I wouldn't get a unique assessment for that. Or a heat pump, a mini split. But if I put solar array on to drive the heat pump to heat my house, I get taxed. So there's inconsistency about it as well that I think is not incenting.
Well, but that's basically saying you've added value to the house. That's what that's saying, right, in layman's terms. So if you replace a furnace with a furnace, you're not adding value to your house. If you replace a furnace with something more expensive, you're adding value to your house, right?
True, but in both cases, they come out on the resale. They come out.
Yeah.
Right? And you will gain on the resale. If solar becomes something that people are going to pay more for in terms of property value, when the house transitions on sale, you'll see that in your property tax revenues. You'll see a higher valuation, you'll get higher taxes.
Right, but that's the point. So therefore taxes on the house are higher. If you've added to the value of the house, the taxes are gonna be greater.
Right, but we
I
don't.
mean, I just wanna make sure I know what you're saying, that's all.
Yes, what I'm suggesting is that we don't generally get into the issue of replacing a furnace with a furnace. You know, if you use the furnace as an example, because
Yeah.
where we're going is away from fossil fuel to electricity. And so if you have a furnace in your home and you change it out for a heat pump, there wouldn't be an assessor that came in and assessed, and you wouldn't be taxed immediately for that. It's just a furnace, you replace the furnace.
Right.
Yet if you put up a solar array, you are, even though the solar array could be considered part of the heating system because in fact it is, right? It's driving the heating system.
Well, it's driving other stuff too. It's more, I mean, it's an added asset versus
That's-
just replacing something. I think that's what Carol's getting
Yeah.
at. Yeah, I mean, you are adding an asset to the house overall. You're not just changing or even upgrading something that's mandatory anyhow.
And then, you may not want to agree with this. There's plenty of people in this area that will never be able to afford to spend $11,000 or $15,000 on a new system. They're gonna pay their monthly electric bill, because that's what they can afford. Therefore, am I seeing it that you're giving people that have more income, you're giving them an incentive, and people that don't have as much income are getting nothing?
That's the problem I have with it, is that, you know, we're basically giving the tax break to people that can afford to put solar on. And people that can't afford it don't have access to that, you know, essentially tax break, or if you will.
Just throwing it,
Yeah,
I mean,
and-
you don't even have to answer that, I'm just throwing it out there.
Yeah, so in the grand scheme of things, since the town doesn't have that extra valuation, that means everybody's taxes are higher. People that don't have solar, and in a roundabout way, in that respect,
Oh, right.
you know, people that don't have solar are, you know, getting taxed for the people that are having solar.
What were the numbers again? You don't have to put it back up on the screen, but what does
Actually, I think,
potential
it was
impact?
actually 241, I think you had a higher number, 241,800 is the total.
Which
in
amounts
assessed value.
to,
Which amounts for the total tax rate, $4,886 off
Yeah.
the tax rate.
Yeah.
Off the taxes collected.
yeah, taxes collected, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's not a lot of money.
No.
In the grand scheme of a $8 million overall budget, yeah.
And that's based on $11,000 a system, or?
No,
No, that's.
Based on-
that's just the total right now, that's that number can change depending on if more people put solar in, how many panels.
She's just speaking about the lost
It's just the
opportunity, the
cost.
opportunity cost.
That's the actual value that we currently have assigned
That's
to.
that.
For solar systems,
Correct.
okay, that's right.
Yeah.
So we'd lose that as a tax if we were.
This
taxing.
morning, just as an example, this morning, my next door neighbors said, oh, we're putting a solar system, and we're gonna get 2 batteries, and we can run our house for 7 days.
Tell them that you permit.
$48,000.
Wow.
It's a Tesla, though, so.
Yes, and that is the future, Carol, it is. Now, the cost of that, you are right, the cost is high today, but it's coming down, and it's coming down fast.
Again, I'll repeat what I've said, there's so many people that live paycheck to paycheck. They said, I can't come up with $15,000 to do anything, no less to change my energy system for the betterment of the universe.
I understand.
I know I'm being overly,
But what I want to do, the policy we're advocating is to encourage it, not discourage it. At the moment, we're discouraging it by taxing it, incrementally taxing it. And what I'm trying to do is encourage it. Because although there is binary, there is those who cannot and those who can, there's a group in the middle who I'd like to encourage, right? Because if the payback is 7 years, and I'm gonna be there 7 years, then I can go borrow the money as a you know, home investment, equity loan,
Yeah.
and it makes sense for me,
Fair enough.
particularly
Yeah.
considering the rate of rise in electricity and the
Yeah.
uncertainty we're facing as a society.
Yep,
If the board were to consider a smaller number, like a 50%, what would be the issue with that for you?
It's a compromise, that's all. It's, you know, not as much as we would prefer. it isn't still an obstacle. I'm being taxed, yes, but you're being taxed only in a percentage. I mean, people say it to me as
Right.
the Energy Committee, they bring this up to me, do you know Bristol's taxing? I'm not gonna put up a solar array. You know, it's just, the numbers don't make that much different, Christina. It's not, 50 versus 0 or 100, the numbers aren't that big. And I would argue you're going to make it back on that transaction anyway. If that property turns and there's value here, you'll see it there. I just don't think we should do it up front because it sends the wrong signal. This is about incenting people to do the right thing, I think, as much as anything.
And just to continue being the squeaky wheel, that I generally have a problem with us telling people what the right thing is for them to do. Us, as a government of any kind.
I don't disagree, but at the moment we're telling them this is a bad idea, that, we're discouraging it, that's all.
Well, not really. I mean, part of your ROI is the taxes that you have to pay for it. That just
Not
changes
usually.
that number.
Not usually. I mean, usually taxes are not part of the ROI.
Well, it should be. If you're gonna put something in, part of the cost of having that is your taxes every year on that system. So if you're calculating the ROI correctly,
I get
you
it.
should be adding, and just like you said, the town's not collecting, it's not a big number of, not a lot of money. So the taxes is not pushing your ROI out, 5 years or anything like that, probably maybe a month or two. So.
I think it's as much of a signal as anything. And I
Yeah.
think you technically you're right, but I don't think it makes sense to discourage at this point.
I'm not familiar, but isn't a big part of the solar too is, as long as the state or your state agency or PUC has some requirement on utilities to buy excess energy from homes. If that changes, that would be a big game changer if they didn't have to do that, right? Because
It would change the calculus of
Yeah.
our ROI for sure. You're talking about the net metering rate.
that metering thing, because
Yes.
right now that's mandated.
It is.
Yeah.
I think it would be highly unusual for them to eliminate net metering.
I would think so.
Now, they may wiggle with the rate a little bit, but highly unusual to eliminate it. But the other point that I'll make is that when the sun is shining, you're not paying for it. It's going right to your heat pump or to your, and with low-cost batteries, which now there's a big investment being made to reduce the cost of storage, the cost that your neighbor is today going to incur will drop significantly in the next few years, making this idea of solar battery, sustainable. I can generate my own energy. I don't need the monopolistic utility, right?
Yeah.
Which we suffer with in this state, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So
So,
they did say they thought they were told their return on investment should be 5 years.
yes,
So,
yeah.
And they could hit that target, I mean, it's still in its infancy.
right.
In New Hampshire anyway.
Now, not to go off track a little bit here, but there are creative ways to solve the low income problem too.
Okay.
Economic methods that they've used in other states. There are ways to get people to this point. This is just the beginning, but at the moment, our policy is disincenting it. And I think as a community, I would advocate we want to encourage rooftop solar. It is the cheapest thing we can do. It is the most effective thing we can do to satisfy both energy costs and do our part for global warming, to reduce carbon emission. It is what we can do.
Let people vote on
I have a comment. My concern is when you first enact this, obviously we saw what our value did this year. We only had a pickup of $46,000 in value. So when you enact this, if we still don't have the normal or the stable, it is going to affect your tax rate the first time you enact it. Afterwards, I don't think it's gonna have a big impact on your tax rate every time somebody puts a solar in. I'm just concerned about the initial, when you first do this, and if you do 100%, it just takes everybody's value off it is going, it could potentially have an effect.
Well,
We've seen that this year.
Knock it down $200,000 right off the bat, 'cause
Right.
that's what we already have.
And we did only gain 46,000 in value. We had 2.9 million in new residential, but because of other things that
Yeah.
changed,
Yeah, yeah,
we
yeah.
gained 46,000 in
Yeah.
value. So,
Right, but it still amounts to
right.
$5,000 and change.
So the
Which
first
isn't
part,
gonna
yeah,
affect
after
it.
that, it's not gonna be when you get somebody who does a pickup, puts theirs in and you offset it, it's never gonna hit. When, the ones after that, it's the initial, but just brings me a concern, so.
But it's a one-time, one-year exemption, right? That's it.
No, it's a,
No, it's off the value.
It's an exemption.
oh,
It's an exemption
perfectly.
from the house.
So the one time it'll hit will be next year's tax rate if this passes. That's when the one-time value reduction of 241,000 will.
Reduction from all the existing.
It just resets their property, okay.
Right. And then it just stays.
It's not $240,000 in spending, it's
No.
$240,000 in valuation,
Valuation.
which is about 5,000 and change.
Depending on your tax rate,
Right,
so that was.
so it
that-
shouldn't have,
yeah.
it shouldn't have a dramatic effect on the tax rate.
As long as your value, normally you pick up a lot more value every year, because there's a lot of work being done normally.
Yes, yeah.
But you got hit as a result of a reclassification, right?
No, you got hit because of
Utilities.
utilities.
Well, that's what I meant, yeah.
Yeah, utility, it wasn't a reclassiclassification, though.
No, it
This
was a settlement.
Yeah, well, no,
No?
Even before that.
It's something the state needs to take care of and they don't. It's what it is, you know?
I mean, if the utilities hadn't dropped this year, we would have gained 2.9 million in value in residential and commercial property, because we were very active.
Yeah.
Very active, but the utilities dropped their value, and with that drop, luckily, we could offset it, or we would have had a bigger problem.
Yeah.
And they did that everywhere, right?
I can't answer that, but I only pay attention to Bristol. So,
Is it,
Pay
right
attention
now,
to Groton, that's where you pay your taxes.
yeah, but my taxes are different. So, that's just my concern. I don't think it's gonna be a problem
Yeah.
later. I think it'll be fine later. It's just that first year.
Yeah, we just won't get we won't get that as an increase in future years.
Right.
But we won't, you
You
won't
won't
see
see
a
the-
drop.
yeah,
You
you
won't
won't
see a
see-
drop every year because of this. You just won't see
Right.
the increases that you could add to the value. That's all.
Correct. But other than that,
Okay. I don't think you're gonna get a vote tonight, Paul.
No.
I'm not necessarily trying to get one tonight, what I wanted to do
It's
is.
a good conversation, and I appreciate it.
Yep,
and,
it's a beginning of a conversation, we've got time, we've got runway here, town meeting is until spring.
Yeah,
But-
well,
Yep.
I mean,
if
we,
you,
it's usually November or so that we decide.
yeah,
Your warrant
That the
articles.
board decides and putting a warrant together.
That's why.
And that still gives you, if we should choose
Right.
not to, that still gives you time to put it in as a petition article.
That's right,
right.
So that's, I think that's really
that was
what
the
moves forward.
dynamics of it, is to be here early enough to try to get your support.
Awesome, thank you.
so the way that works is we just have to vote our vote is to put this in the warrant, that's it.
Yeah, and that would happen, that wouldn't, even if we said we agreed with this tonight, we wouldn't do that until, we were doing the actual warrant.
Yeah, I mean, it seems to make sense to throw this out to the voters, right?
Well,
Have-
we
have
missed
some
the road,
votes.
that's the
It has to be.
No, but I'm saying,
Yeah.
we should move it on, that's what I said, but let him present both sides of the story and let people decide.
I'd certainly be willing to do that at town meeting.
Okay.
But if I had your support, Errol, if I had the support of the select board, it would be helpful, that's all.
Yeah.
Well, and I guess the other thing you have to decide is, do you wanna support the 100%, or do you wanna support a
Right.
different number?
Right.
So, and
And we
that's,
can discuss that.
right,
And is it possible to ask assessing?
Sure.
Sort of how they do this, or?
I can
So it's a simple matter of the house is worth more money because it has a solar array on it. That has to be what it is.
It adds
Yeah,
So if you
value.
put an
It's-
outdoor, if you
It
put
does
an
add
outdoor
value.
wood-fired furnace, somebody says that doesn't raise the value of your house.
It might detract it.
It
It might detract.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think they're
I'm
fine. Smoke is.
because I have one, sorry.
Yeah,
And I think, Carol, that's where that was the point I was trying to make about,
Yeah.
at what point of granularity do we need to go, well, give that, but not that.
Is it fair? What point is it
It's a
fair
fairness,
anymore?
yeah.
Right, sure.
It's
I get
fairness.
that. Absolutely.
We do have a wind, so the question would be, we do have a property that's installing a wind, I don't know if they've done it yet, I'd have to check. They're installing, a wind
Small wind turbine,
turbine
yeah.
on the roof.
Yep.
And they are gonna be probably assessed, so if you're going to do something for solar, should you also be doing something for wind?
Is there a mechanism?
There is, I'd have
different
to,
RSA.
Can I just weigh in on that for a moment?
Yep.
I don't think all renewables are the same. So solar is not obtrusive, that you don't see it, you don't hear it, you don't smell it, you know. So I wouldn't try to use a brush and say all renewables.
Right.
You know, I think we need to be careful about which ones. Wind is always one that is controversial because it's up in the air, it's obvious, it's catching wind, it's usually big.
it's not, this is not the same turbine.
It's a
that you're
residential.
thinking.
I've seen them in
It's a
use.
single,
They call them axial
Yeah.
turbines, I'm familiar.
Yeah.
yeah,
And yet it
but you
could
have to be able to
raise
answer that question, why you're not doing that too.
Yeah, well,
So-
we do that every day.
Yeah.
But I appreciate you bringing it up.
Right,
Yep.
so,
Because we don't want.
we don't
Okay.
want to talk about
We haven't talked about it before.
Usually it's the answer.
So, and it may come down to that, we don't want, I mean, as a community, right, do we want? But I think we do want solar, I think that's kind of my message, we do want solar, and I think we want to encourage it for a lot of the right reasons.
All right.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Well,
Nicely done.
I have a presentation that I passed it,
Electronically.
yes,
Yes.
if you want some notes on it.
I think we've got it, although there.
You've got a
there were
different,
some
yeah, we got
different-
I'll send you, I just sent it to you actually, in
Yeah.
case I got, so I did just.
I'll share the other
Okay.
updated one, so.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Right, thank you.
Thanks,
Thanks.
Paul.
Thank you.
All right. Town administrator.
Okay, we sent you my usual write-up, and I'm just looking down through to see what we haven't talked about. I think probably the south, if you saw they dug up South Main, the state did because it was a culvert that wasn't connected to one at all.
Yes.
That's why the road was washed out.
Yeah, thank you.
And it's reconnected and they're gonna pave this fall, so that was a big, the Verizon cell tower update is not good news. That won't, because they're not gonna be able to do that until, because of supply chain issues, delay the installation until the spring of '23. Okay, so, the next thing was the, Christina and Mark put together the update on the paving of that monies that you had encumbered and then released back to Mark. There's a breakdown in my report on where he's has spent or is going to spend the money this fall.
Yeah.
To get that.
They're starting next week, and I will try to remember to
Okay.
post it tomorrow, I forgot.
Christina wanted to know that Surveymonkey, the planning board has kicked off their community survey, updating the master plan through Surveymonkey, and you've seen that.
If you haven't done it, please do it.
Yes.
And historic town hall, the lock was checked with advanced lock and alarm, and they fixed it. They did not feel it needed to be replaced, as it's in good order, so that's good. Mark's crew's gonna try to replace the decking, or is gonna replace the decking before elections with pressure treated wood, which will remain plain for approximately a year before he paints it.
Yeah.
And they're looking into options for railing.
Yeah.
And that's it, and then the other stuff we updated you in non-public today.
Select board items. Dawn,
I'm good this week.
Les,
I'm good.
Carol,
Here we go.
Oh, you're the one.
You told me I had to act like JP. Have we put out an update on the public safety building for the public to see yet?
No, but I can verbally, there was in your, manifest tonight, you'll see a $27,000, request for to the architectural firm that, did the plans, they're done, so we're gonna pay them. So we own the plans for the building. Moving forward, Ben did send an email that they've discovered they need some geotechnical additional work. We haven't got a number on that yet, but so it's starting to move. So I think that's good news.
Well, we've talked about for a little while now about someone writing it up and getting it out either on the town webpage or somewhere. Because again, someone asked me this week, where's that at?
Yeah, so
And
I
I can
think we
tell
can
them.
probably do that now. We'll
Okay,
get something decayed and we'll
thank you.
get something published.
I think we were kind of holding off until we were sure where we were at with
Yeah,
it,
yeah,
but
fine.
now we have some better news, we should
Yep.
get
Yeah,
something
so
on.
I think the first money's being spent out of that 4.8, so now you're locked in and here we go.
I know you're probably gonna say insurance is the reason, but I'm throwing it out there, talk about people getting hurt at the dump. So with Jeannie's house, I spent a lot of time at the New Hampton transfer station, and they have no fences at their metals and construction debris roll-offs. So you don't have to pick up a couch or TV over a railing and try to throw it in. And I've done it and see people doing it, and it is a way for people to get hurt. I don't know if we could ask Mark if you guys think it's sensible. They have no fences there, so you could literally fall in, but you can also put your stuff in very safely,
Yeah.
much more safely.
Well, what about a
At
gate
times-
that opens?
I've thought about
Oh,
gates there at times, yeah.
You know, I'm sure our insurance company would have some suggestions.
I think I think they probably did Primex probably looked at that. Who knows if they said they had to put the railings in, but I don't
So the
know.
gate would be nice, so you
Yeah, it would be
could
nice.
We'll get
Open it
with
up and
Mark
dump it in.
roll something in there.
Because somebody, a citizen could get hurt and could come back after us.
Well, I've already helped somebody get something in, and after dropping from the railing, of course, it bounced and went on the other side and ended up on the ground. They had to get a machine and put it back in anyhow.
And then finally, only one more. So we're having the election at the Old Town Hall.
Correct.
Have we talked about getting a company to do transport? We talked about that.
We can talk to Rayma. That is Rayma and Ned. I did talk to Rayma a little bit after the last meeting, and they chosen to continue to have it at Old Town Hall because they don't want to move it at this
Yeah.
point, but maybe next year they can consider a different option. But I can talk to them about transportation.
Thank you.
And the railing, will we have a railing there?
Mark's looking at.
That's part of what
Mark
mine was
believes he's
doing.
going to, yep. Mark said that they'd have to shift it slightly and put different holes in because they're where the railing was before.
No place to go.
He said, yeah, so
Why don't they want it here, the voting? It's too small.
supposedly there's not enough room.
And there's
For the big election, they're saying, but we
Which is-
did a little election and we didn't do it here either, so.
Yeah, that's what I was
What
surprised.
election you did do one
Yeah,
year?
We did.
I
smaller
remember.
ones.
This is
3 years ago for town.
Okay, I do.
Yeah.
Oh,
I
that's,
remember standing out there with you
that's the
campaigning.
one I read, yeah.
That's why I
In the
remember.
lovely weather.
We're standing out there next time, campaign,
It had,
the two.
it had my tin up so that we could
It
stand.
was very helpful.
In the dry.
I mean, we could certainly have Ned back in and have that discussion again if we wanted to, but
Pretty settled.
I think November's election's gonna be pretty well attended,
yeah.
so.
Yeah, we're starting to get email blasts on new federal rules for elections, and I don't know if there's gonna be costs associated with that, not just in the last day or so, they're coming in like crazy, so.
Thanks, I'm good.
Anita?
I'm good.
And I think I am good as well. Any public comment? No? Something, anything for the record?
You just have your little letter, I don't know if you want, it was in your email blast, but.
Oh, yeah, that's,
This is exhausting, this is very exhausting.
So this is some correspondence letter from the Pemigewasset Valley chapter of the Daughters of the American Revolution thanking us for our proclamation last meeting for the Constitution Week.
Nice.
Nice.
Great.
I just have one other thing.
Okay?
So I have an appointment coming up.
I'll be
I
quiet.
have someone who wants to serve as an alternate on the Conservation Commission. Do you want to interview them like you've been? It's an alternate position on the Conservation Commission.
I'm okay.
You got something
What, say
interesting.
that again, I heard conservation
So
commission.
I have an application for an alternate to serve on the Conservation Commission. Normally the board has interviewed, and I just wanted to double check if we wanted to continue that.
I don't know that we've had an alternate, this might be the first time in
Oh, no,
the.
we brought John Miller in when he
Oh, that's
interviewed
an
as an
alternate.
alternate for planning board.
Okay.
And it's John's wife.
It's
Oh,
Bill
okay.
Haskell,
Oh,
who's
it's
the Dam Bureau of DES, but he worked 30 years with DES in the Dam Bureau. He knows about building dams and building culverts and
Does he?
runoff.
Live in town?
Yeah,
Oh, because there's another damn bureau guy.
It's
yeah.
Kathleen's
He's
husband.
retired now.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Kathleen's husband.
Oh,
Yes.
Oh, okay, yeah. I mean, I'd like to at least come.
okay, yeah, you can come in.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think that would be a meeting and then sign it.
So,
Okay, we'll schedule, which I did.
10 minutes, it's
I'll
not.
schedule it.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be an interview,
Yeah.
just come and meet us.
Yep.
That's,
We'll give you a solid 10 minutes, no problem.
yeah.
Yep.
I walked up around that way and got the.
Having a conversation.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, anything
Nice
else?
guy.
No, but you should have your flow chart soon.
Okay.
Hey, look at that, you got two.
I got them all, I just have to get them organized, so.
I didn't realize he was ordering.
I will take a motion to adjourn, please.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Anita, all those in favor?
Aye.
That's a 5-0. Thank you, Deb.